There's still a huge stigma attached to mental illness, and the way to combat that is the exact way that we combated any form of stigma in the past, and that's about being open about these issues, about speaking freely, and about educating and making people aware of how extensive the tentacles of mental health extend, and just how close to home that it does hit.
I think there is a small change in terms of attitudes to people who have mental health problems or mental illness. Unfortunately, I still think there's a huge stigma to having a mental health illness.
There are more people coming forward now. There are more people recognising that talking about mental ill health actually helps the situation, and admitting that there may be a problem there is a first step to getting the right kind of help that you might need.
I think there's still some work to be done, but I think more and more people are experiencing mental health within families, within organisations. So I think people have a duty of care to do something about it, and are.
So although there are some improvements, I think we have a long way to go until we see mental disorder on a par with physical disorder.
The language has changed. It's not necessarily about saying you've got a mental health condition, it's about how people feel, it's about their wellness.
People read that the treatment for their depressive disorder is medication and cognitive behaviour therapy, and getting access to that specialist cognitive behaviour therapy is very difficult.
In the past there was a degree of, I suppose, reliance on medication. Things aren't necessarily the same now. We do talk about complementary therapies helping with mental health conditions. We talk about wellbeing therapies helping with mental health conditions. There's things like counselling as well. So you're not always necessarily reliant on drugs.
GPs often try and manage people with depressive disorders and anxiety disorders themselves, when possibly they do need referrals to specialists, and there is a recognition that now that because we're focused on severe mental disorders, i.e. schizophrenia, there is a huge unmet need in depressive disorders and anxiety disorders.
For some GPs, they've made an attempt to educate themselves about mental health and about stress and anxiety and depression and the implications on their clients, and I think there's more of a shift towards let's do the talking therapies before we prescribe. So I think GPs now are more educated really about how to treat depression and anxiety, and to really see what else there is out there before they think about, the prescription pad.
There's a recognition that alternative treatments do have a role to play in the treatment of some mental illnesses, but certainly you still need biological treatments and drug treatments and specialist psychotherapy treatments, which currently there is inadequate access to within the community.
The way treatment is organised, we talk about silos. You have a silo for mental health, a silo for joint pain, a silo for the headache clinic. And so looking at health and well-being in the way that an organisation like Kaleidoscope does is a really good way of trying to help people overall.
I'd like to think that we've been very influential. I'd like to think that our reputation locally, we're known as providers of good mental health services.
I think it's been massively influential in changing attitudes, particularly over the last 12 to 18 months with the rebranding and with the changing and the move away from it just being about mental ill health, and it's more about the person as a whole.
It's not just one focus that we have, it's not just one approach that we have. We look at things from different angles as to how we can make best use of the help that we can provide people.
Previously we were restricted to being able to do things that just focused on an individual's mental health condition, but now we can recognise that it's not just about that mental health condition. It might be that you address another area of someone's life that might have an impact on that person's well-being or mental health, but it's not the fact that they've got a diagnosed mental health condition.
I like to think that we're offering a real variety of services and treatments because people require that. One shape does not fit all.
I'd like to see the service users get to a place where they're involved already in a lot of different areas of the delivery of services, but I'd like to see them get more involved in the staff appraisals and looking at how they can develop and get trained to be delivering training alongside staff.
Knowledge and awareness of mental health isn't just for the sufferer, it's for everyone in the network, because we will all benefit from this proliferation and knowledge.
There needs to be more of services like Kaleidoscope so people have access to a range of different therapies and treatment, because I think often people need to know that they're not the only person who suffers with that illness. So seeing other people who've been through the same kind of difficulties as they have is helpful.
I see the future that we would become bigger rather than let some of the excellent work done by small organisations disappear, to take them under our wing. You know, there are economies of scale.
And what we'd like to be able to do is share that knowledge, share that expertise with local providers and smaller providers. They don't need to lose their independence, but they can come to us and use us as either a critical friend, or they could buy into our services in terms of becoming a part of the group.
Third sector organisations like ourselves tend to have a really good working relationship with the community. We have a trusting relationship, one of confidence, one of understanding, one of being at grassroots. So through us, secondary services are able to actually gain access to those communities. So although they might be sort of supporting the funding that we have, or they might be leading a particular project that we might be providing, it's actually through us that they can get the referrals and make the difference out there in the community.
In the next 4 or 5 years, probably being able to have a portfolio of services, at least across the Midlands, where Kaleidoscope Plus Group is known in each of those local authority areas as one of the key providers of not just mental health services, but wellbeing services and a range of other services.
An organisation like Kaleidoscope Plus is absolutely pivotal to the education drive, because you need a base educated platform for which all of these lessons to spawn from. And Kaleidoscope Plus, not only are they venturing out into the local community, but also by degrees of separation, those people are then coming back in to either be a part of the system, or they are then imparting that knowledge elsewhere. So while there isn't yet the appetite by the government to address this issue head-on, organisations like Kaleidoscope Plus can have a profound effect in their local area in the Midlands, and then hopefully that will expand out into other areas and other organisations will be doing the same.
What I would like to see, what I think might happen for the future, is that it'll be diagnosed earlier and earlier, and the sooner it's diagnosed, the sooner people can get help, and the less impact it has on their life in the long term.
I think things will improve. How rapidly they'll improve is difficult to say, because over the years I've been doing psychiatry myself, which is quite a long time. Things haven't improved as much as I would have hoped they might improve, but I think there's signs of some optimism there.
The ideal scenario for me in 20 years' time is that I will be able to go into the office, into the studio, go to a colleague of mine and say, "Oh, you seem a bit down today, have you spoken to someone about that?" And there will be no judgment, there will be no defence mechanism that goes up. There will be do you know what, I haven't actually spoken to anyone in a while, I think I need to do that. And just as safely as you can suggest that someone go and see their doctor because they've got the flu, people will be open-minded and aware enough to be able to seek counselling or therapies for when they have a mental health issue.
I think we have got a long way to go, but I do think they'll change. I feel that mental health at the moment is like cancer was, say, 10, 15 years ago. People didn't tend to speak about cancer very much. It used to be the C word. But now, lots of people talk about cancer. Lots of people, although it's obviously it's not a nice condition to have, people are a lot more optimistic about the treatment that's available. I feel mental health is going that way slowly but surely. It will take time, but I do feel we'll get there.